If there is any one animal to best represent Skyrim, well, except the very obvious dragon, it would have to be the wolf. There are a lot of wolves and dogs in Skyrim, from the common enemy, the basic conjuration, a few stray dogs, a danger quest where you have a dog follower, and heck, there is an entire quest line about turning into dogs. There are a lot of troubles in Skyrim, and there is only one person who can solve every canine-related problem, so we conjure a spirit, as today we will attempt to beat Skyrim as Cesar Millan. So who is Cesar Millan? Simple. He is a dog whisperer, able to tame the most aggressive dogs and training their owners on the side. So much so he had a hit reality TV show that ran from 2004 to 2012, so basically when a lot of the viewers were babies or not even born yet. So how will I be able to translate his abilities to Skyrim? Simple. For the rules, the only way for me to attack is by using the Conjure Familiar Spell Tome family, and that is it. But I do have a special rule. I am able to bring along any dog companions, and except for no major glitches, those are the rules. I originally ran this idea as a poll between either using Conjure Familiar only, or as Cesar Millan, and the character focus run was the winner. So what is the main difference? Simple. I'll have to complete both the Dater's Best Friend, along with the entire companion's questline, along with picking up Miko. And that's more or less it. Keeping the rules nice and simple. Also, as a side note, for the most part, I run these polls to determine what I should run and how I should run them, just so I don't decide to do a 5K marathon with my shoes tied together. With the preamble done, one big question remains in the back of everyone's mind. Who is the bestest boy in all of Tamriel? Let's find out. Starting out the run, well, besides spending 10 minutes figuring out OBS, because clone from a 24-inch to a 27-inch monitor caused my settings to freak out. Who knew that 3 inches would be the difference between a wimp and a champ? As for the character creator, someone with at least a 2 in intelligence would pick a Breton because they start with a faithful canine companion. However, 2 is twice the intelligence I have, so I went with a wood elf. The logic behind it is because Cesar Millan would most likely be a wood elf, given their whole kindred with the animal thing going on. Also tried to make Cesar to the best of my abilities, but given Skyrim has the inferior character creator to Oblivion, I just settled with Cesar. I watched a public demonstration on the dangers of keeping your body parts out of dangerous machinery, or else the flying supervisor will set fire to the whole town. I have ran through this burning town over 30 times at this point. I can turn off my brain as I remember how to play Skyrim. I recorded 3 Oblivion runs before this, so my brain has to get back to the swing of things. Speaking of swinging, I had to deal with the paparazzi trying to ask me questions, and the rest of the intro is more or less me avoiding becoming spider food. I tried playing Mario Kart World, but I got hit by a red shell, so I lost the race and had to walk home in the rain. Still beats negative 40 weather heading to class. Outside in the fresh air, I decided to pick up some early game resources, namely some robes and a tent, and at a shrine nearby. I don't think the bandits appreciate me taking their only PJs and were trying to beat me up for it. I'm just playing fetch, okay? I follow the path towards Riverwood, all the while avoiding the wolves. A bit of an odd restriction, but for the most part, I'll try not to attack any wolves with my summons. Given I'm a dog lover, it just doesn't feel right. I watch pathfinding being unable to find a path, I steal from the local blacksmith taking his lunch for the next week, and I get a commission from the local trade store for using my likeness. They were out of dog summon treats, but there are more mages out in Skyrim, so I can do some plundering. I wandered my way to the stables and hitched a ride to Solitude, and why yes, I did so to prove dogs are better to the cat people by stealing all their valuable loot. And since I was in town, I decided to skip the midnight double feature picture show, and instead purchase a dog license from Sibyl. I know she isn't the most moral of court wizards, but when I was wanting dogs, I was wanting the non-spectre kind. They were probably someone's companion in a previous life, so it will suffice. I wish you could pet dogs in the game, but sadly you can't. Hopefully the next Elder Scrolls game will have a pet dog function, or I will trash it. Since this is still the setup part of the run, I did dive into the treat box and steal all the milk bones for myself, and try to pet Vigilance, but once again, no pet button. I should have played VR. Oh well, I broke down my stolen loot, and enchanted some items to help out with the early game. With some perks and conjuration so I can cast 2 whole wolves for magic bar, I figure I could get some shards for embers, and try out my wolves. It sucks. It takes about 3 sword slashes from the weakest bandit to go down for a nap, at most. And in a group, it is about as effective as using a rubber band to chain up a guard dog. I think I broke the dungeon because I had to retreat to heal, and when I came back in, half of the final ruins bandits were on bathroom break, so clearing out the rest of the dungeon was pretty straightforward. More bandits being taken out doggies. I need to stop putting these innuendos in these videos. Taken out with the help of a specter friend. That is better. In a one-on-one encounter of the weakest type of enemy, I think the familiar is alright enough. It took 3 doggos to defeat a basic bandit. Y'all like to vote for my safety, when I most certainly don't. And to think, I could have tried to beat Skyrim as an Argonian in survival mode with every disease, or using the longbow and practice arrow combo without sneaking today. Next up is of course heading into everyone's favorite intro dungeon. I took the stairs I never knew existed until I walked up to them, and I put the dog in the kennel. This ain't no pit bull, but a chihuahua. All bark and no bite. I probably should have played this run pacifist, using my dogs to make a run for it. And I most certainly did so, considering these are the weakest bandits, and there were 3 of them. I snuck my way up to the dungeon for some sneak experience, since I will need to hit level 10 for the run. It went well, until it didn't, then I ran inside the Undercroft. Once again I used the dog as an effective distraction. Let this be a helpful tip if they send the canines after you. Put some sausages in your trousers, act big and intimidating at first, then run away in fear. I watched a bandit become a demonstration on why you shouldn't bathe with a toaster, then I fisted a web to free Arvel, while leaving a distraction to distract the frostbite spider. Arvel is not a marvel, and yet still makes it out longer than my puppers. Once I had the key, I hung around the blade traps until the Draugr made their exit stage right. The rest of the first section was me letting my dogs off the leash as I continued to grind conjuration, and had my canine trip an owner down a flight of stairs all the way to their death, and I took a hammer swing to the back of my head. Thankfully my head is very thick to handle the bludgeon, otherwise it was more slicing and dicing, at least not by me, and I'm at the boss room. The dog jumped up on the bed to lick the Overlord awake, but it was booped pretty quickly. Yeah, the Overlord is flat out one-shotting the Hound. Instead of endlessly sending out wolves from the afterlife to the meat grinder ad nauseum, I would slowly take the Overlord to the blender. At this point, it is dawning on me. With how mediocre the familiar is, chances are I would end up playing the rest of the run as a pacifist, or pretty damn close to. I probably should do an actual pacifist playthrough at some point, but oh well. Back to reality instead of the endless cosmic string of nonsense that's my half-functioning brain. In my current state, the Hounds aren't going to cut it. And most of the perks in the Conjuration tree apply to all summons, except for the Hounds. So I'm going to have to adopt more Hounds to my pack. Well, the Overlord was blended to a fine paste. I grabbed the stone and made my grand entrance to town without cameras flooding my face. I don't do much in this visit, just informing the Jarls that the natural predator of dogs, that being dragons, are back and they are hungry. He sends me to the court wizard, which I purchased some helpful attire for breaking down behind him. The robes don't do much for helping with the fireworks shot off by selfish neighbors, causing every animal in a mile radius to freak out, but it does help in enchanting my entire set, so I can release a few more Hounds. I also play fetch in Aventus's clothing, just because the pickpocket run was some of the most fun I've ever had, though he calls me out for it.
To rob me, right?
With my gear all set, I arrive for the first dragon battle. If my canines amount to flea bites of the Overlord, then you can imagine how effective they will be on a dragon. I don't see me sacrificing all these doggos in vain. I call it giving these good boys a 74th chance. Make it 75th chance. Like a dog to the mailman, the Hounds charge to their death, but given all the backup I have at my disposal, the lizard becomes a chew toy, and I'm back to the Jarl being told good boy. And while everyone thinks of the followers as pets, I don't really feel like human companionship. I am going to need a lot more help for the run, with stronger foes coming to play here soon enough. If I can't win with power, then I'm going to have to do so with numbers, and I can at least bring in some doggos of the more alive variety to my mix. I depart to the northwest of Morthal, letting my specter chase the spiders around the house, stopping by the poorly aged reality show, It Ain't No Crocodile Hunter, and having my wolves fight the crabs. And the crabs come out on top. I know they are fierce little critters, but you don't need to rub it in. Along the roadside, I find a stray dog named Miko. I follow the boy to a shack nearby to find his dead owner. I find a note telling me to take good care of Miko, which I do. I adopt the adorable little hound to my fold, and because I don't think the executive producers would like dead dogs on the show, I set Miko to Essential. It won't really help me out that much, I just don't want to have another pet die so soon. At least now I have 2 puppers following me around. I figure I could do a test run of my compatriots' abilities at a tower nearby. I had to stop a wolf from attacking me. What are wolves but dogs who have never been told they're a good boy? Well, at least before the mauling anyways. Down the road a bit, I find some dead soldiers and a scavenger. The battle is very straightforward, just like my dogs bark. So about Miko's plot armor. It won't be like Barbas. When his frankly small health pool is exhausted, he'll just back down and bark like all my dogs barking at a butterfly farting. Thankfully my ghost dogs can clean up the fight when they don't get one shot anyways. I also tried taming the local wild wolves. They will obey me, however Miko resents authority and mauls them all instead. Really ought to work on that. At the Volthoom Towers, I let my dogs off their chain and maul everyone here. I led everyone in a circle, but instead of a horizontal circle like a smart person, it was a vertical circle as I jumped off the tower. I need to remember this is Skyrim and not a high acrobatics Oblivion. Today the chief was wearing his Creation Club clothing, finally. I endlessly threw litters at the boss until finally the rock joint catches up to him, and the tower was finally cleared out. My small mind decided instead of heading to Iverstead like I was initially going to, I figure I could heavily blow out the runtime of this video for more mid-roll slots that YouTube automatically places, and I joined the companions. I did have to momentarily break the rules just to punch Vilcus a couple times in the face so I can join, all a part of initiation. I do the menial tasks like the good fresh meat, ready for a right hazing, and I'm given a room to crash in for the night after a long day of recording shots to make for great TV ratings, and I'm a full-fledged member. I did have to say no to Farkas wanting me to break the rules, instead being tasked by Ayala to break into people's houses to tame local dogs. I made a wolf need healing, and proving Miko as the alpha male, to join Farkas in a faraway dungeon. Hopefully this will be a quick in and out 6-minute excursion. It was closer to half an hour. The intro party wasn't too bad, 3-on-1, but this dungeon loves swarming you later on. I did have some trouble getting Barcus to show his persona costume at the local convention, mostly because Miko was laying like a loyal hound waiting for Master to come home from getting milk. Only once the secret dog ability of temporarily floating would Farquaad finally come out, and the sheer aura would be enough for some Silver Hand to turn on each other. So now the Draugr have turned into the Silver Hand, which are just renamed bandits. The first few encounters went alright, though I really should have healed between encounters. Oftentimes, all my compatriots would go down, only leaving my glass cannon that fires dodgeballs. Not the rubber kind, but the soft ones that won't get the school in trouble by overly protective parents. What's wrong with a broken nose? The last room in the first zone was pretty troublesome, mostly having to kite the hands around the room, while letting Spectral Med 34 through 46 try to clear out the room. Yeah, I really should get Barbas sooner rather than later, as Farkas would constantly be panting, and Miko is barking at the flies. It is mostly me kiting bandits around the room, waiting for magic to recharge just enough to fire one hound that goes down in 2 shots. In fact, I think it took 5 minutes to defeat 2 bandits. Thankfully the rest of the cairn was pretty straightforward until the boss room. Yeah, the main reason I went through this dungeon is to spend more time leveling myself up so I can get Barbas. Yeah, relying on this group was quite exhilarating, just sitting out of camera's reach to make the owner seem competent. 3 weak companions versus a horde of the undead. How fun. I was sitting on top of a tomb, waiting for my magic to recharge so I can summon a corgi to bite at the ankles until they were back in timeout mode, and repeat for a bloody long time. At least the Spectral Hounds alike, comment, and subscribe contributed to the fight only a little bit. After losing more brain cells than the average Sharknado binge session, or me at a day's work, I am inducted into the inner circle for doing absolutely nothing, and even the courier is in the circle also. Still not at my required level, I figure I could do a few more quests to bolster my experience. I traveled to Methel to take care of what I assume was a bad guard dog. As it turns out, it wasn't a dog, but a guard cat. I had to hang out on top of a fireplace and let a ghost dog sniff enough cat butt to take it out. And while I was in town, I did some conjuration training to finish getting me to level 10. But before I go to Cheeseland, I return to the companions and become a dog myself. Deep down, I think Cesar would want to be a dog himself. At the very least, the Silverhand base is way easier of a dungeon than the cairn, mostly because it's supposed to be a power trip for growing hair out of places that there isn't supposed to be hair. Ayala is a considerably better companion than Farkas, so the dungeon wasn't that difficult, at least until the boss. Once again, it was mostly just me after my backup decides to take a doggy nap. I can't stand on top of a pillar and cheese the AI because they have bows, but what they don't have is the high ground. I will give props where it's due. The bandit leader is at least smart enough to walk face first into a trap, so I had to lead the steamed hams enthusiast around the room, just long enough for my backup to discover the Aurora Borealis, and Ayala tasked me in hunting down Silverhands in a far-off location. Yeah, I'm gonna need some more backup, but at least now I am level 10, meaning I can add a new good boy to my roster. I traveled down to Folkreath, told Durak he should be grateful I don't have any weapon restrictions, or else I'd butcher him on the spot for just an armor upgrade. I talked to Lod, and he mentions a stray dog out of town. Turns out the stray can talk, and has had a falling out with his master, and wants me to reunite them back together. For once, the characters in a video game actually recognize who I am role-playing as, and not some blank slate protagonist in a game built around feeling like a chosen one or something. The hike to Hamer's Cavern was pretty quick, though I did have to wait for Barbas to show up. If I waited, he would have already walked to the end of the dungeon, so I had to manually wait until he showed up. So much for me trying to be proactive in my quest completion. At least in my waiting, I met someone who should have masked up. Once my pup was close enough, I started on my blood-sucking crusade against the bloodsuckers. My 2-dog party wasn't doing very well, but thankfully partway through, my backup finally shows up and carries the show. I mean, it's very nice when one of your dogs is a dater god that cannot die. So now I have a party of 3. So that means I have become a DJ in Fallout 3. The rest of the vampire hunt went pretty simple, mostly from having the backup. Doesn't mean my DPS is very good. It very much not so. But at least the run can go by much simpler. Just the boss room took a bit of time. Eventually the last vampire is enjoying a garlic bath, and I'm talking to the Daedric Prince of Let's Make a Deal, and he tasked me in going to the furthest reaches of Skyrim to pick up an axe. Yeah, I won't be doing that until the end of the run. I have a better reward in quality dog time with a backwards dog. Since I am in the area, I figure I should probably climb the 9,001 steps of the old man who live on top of mountains, and get altitude sickness along the way. In my first group encounter, Miku is the first to charge in head first, my ghost dog is here and there, and Barbas is, well, Barbas, which is going to be the trend going forward. I'd have to constantly wait around for my group to catch up. All was fine and dandy in the climb until the ice wolves came out to play. I have already used my hippie power for the day, and the ice wolves will not leave me alone. Might be they hate my staged reality shows. Might be because they're sick of my voice like most of the rude comments, especially on the skill speedrun video, or it might be the sausage in my pants that I stole from the supermarket. Okay, ain't coming back from that one. Eventually the wolves lose interest, and I can climb up to the frost troll. Barbas dipped out to chase the butterflies, so it's down to my 2 semi-mortal dogs. They nipped the Yeti in the legs, the Yeti told them bad dogs, and they stood down, and the troll regenerated max health. Yeah, there was no way in hell I'd be able to beat this troll, so I left it be, and I gave a demonstration to Old Man on how to discipline a dog and not letting them pee on your legs. They reward me the powers of knowing when the mailman is here, and the next stop is Usengrov. Works out, I have a lot of business in the area. When I arrived in Morthal, I had a fun battle with dragons and dragon priests. We are off to a wonderful start. The guards in town took out the priest no problem. The flying lizard though, that would be a problem. My dogs can't do anything to flying birds, that's more of a cat thing. Sadly Jorgen became a hilarious chew toy. Starting to realize that maybe getting rid of his guard Sabercat might have not been a good idea. Guards pick up my pacifist ass, I get a soul for when I can become ethereal, and I begin hiking towards Usengrov. I have a general understanding of how to deal with group encounters. Go after the head, and the rest of the snake will twitch from being decapitated. These dogs don't really have that level of intelligence. They would often clear out the ads that come back before going for the summoner. I can't do anything about it but sit around and watch. At least they're able to nip away at their ankles and come out on top. I did attempt to go through the second portion as intended. Instead of going from a usual shortcut, something broke in my wolves' heads and would not do anything. I let them lick the guess and pushed on ahead. I gave myself the power of a green gimp suit and a green screen, and sprinted my way through the rest of Usengrov, getting a letter shoved through the mail slot. I'll become a chew toy, ruining my rebate check that would have kept me fed for another week, returning me to the state I was for the Daedric run, and I'm back outside in the cool air. Since I am in the area, I figure I could go for a secret upgrade to my kit. I will admit, the dogs are not good. Even with an immortal pooch, that won't die because the director said so, and the first thing that crossed my mind is taking on a dragon priest. I brought along the cat from Animal Crossing everyone has a thing for because people are super sick. She wants to get a scroll from the tomb and will do anything for that scroll. But not that thing. Because I have 3.5 meat shields, I can keep the geriatrics distracted long enough for the defibrillator to put them to sleep. Honestly, I'm just surprised how good Anska is, at least in relation to my dogs. It's like bringing along a missile launcher to a water gun fight. The rest of the dungeon went by so much easier, at least in relation to other dungeon dives yet to come, and I'm in the boss room. I was very worried about Vulcan because I haven't mentioned yet is that this entire quest is an escort quest, and Anska has to be alive for it to count. By some act of mercy by the game, or the game just breaking again because Skyrim just can't seem to work properly for me, the idiot backed himself into a corner and his fireballs were hitting the ceiling. I will take an easy fight. I rip off his mask, which comes with the perk of reducing conjuration spell cost by 20%. Now I can go into public without getting swarmed by fans and pigeons. I grab the scroll, give it to Anska, and she lets me in on her family's secret abilities. She has dogs that are on fire and can explode. I resume back on the dusty trail to continue the companion's quest line, and there are some vigilantes just hanging out. I'm supposed to be role-playing as a morally good character. My counterpoint is that I must continue the endless cycle of killing the vigilants. And to test out my flaming dog, I like it when my dogs follow your commands. Sit, stay, spontaneously combust. I'm starting to think that not all dogs go to heaven after all. I must be summoning the spirit of an old dog of mine that killed all our ducks. I left my pack behind and forged on ahead towards a random cave because the radiant system is so much fun. Inside the cavern, I let my friendly pups viciously maul away at the silver hand. The cave was super short, and I'm back to the furries to get my next mission from Ayala. Simply more purification. But since I haven't had any deaths yet, I should probably keep that trend up, and I hacked my way to the Lordstone. On my way there, I visited the smoldering remains of the Stendars. May your bodies never experience getting mauled by my police force. Also, I don't feel like doing the Dawnguard questline. Sure, I could get some demon dogs to add to my fold, but they are not the good kind of dogs, and I would have to lose my persona. So I let them be. Don't need to pad out the runtime any longer than it needs to be. I smile at the Lord that probably does not smile back at my activities, especially my more recent Skyrim runs. I return to Riverwood and bake me some fried chicken, and I'm talking to the worst innkeep about progressing the main story. My two questlines take me to similar regions, so I took a nature hike on my way there, but at one point I might have stepped in someone's dog shit on the road. You're supposed to clean up after your dogs. Karen. I eventually arrived at Lost Knife Hideout, and instead of just overhand, I had to deal with some green cap bandits. I have never seen these enemies before, though looking back at it, I believe they were added in Creation Club. The green caps were green horns, and even the spectral hound would come out on top. The rest of the dungeon was pretty straightforward. I let the mauling continue, I grabbed some more fragments, and wrapped up this pretty comfy dungeon, and I continued my travels to Kynesgrove. Thankfully the trip there was pretty event-free, and the only thing keeping me company being the dark thoughts in my head. I could be playing as a vigilant Stendar. That thought is bloody terrifying. I arrived at the Salakanir fight and watched a pup play dead. Since I couldn't start the fight ahead of time, I had to wait for Alduin's monologue to finish. The dragon was not very threatening. Well, Dullafox was doing most of the work since Salakanir likes to take to the skies. I was worried I'll be in for a brutal time until the stupid lizard landed right in front of a giant. I let the Titan clobber the gecko on the head, and I can avoid any semblance of difficulty. Once my mission was done, I returned to the Dog Lovers Convention, and I'm tasked by Cadillac to rip the heads off of hagravens. You know, family-friendly entertainment. The evil recesses in my mind was curious. I found Azim in the marketplace, and I let loose my dogs of hell to send his ass to hell. All it took was 2, and Azim died. And the best part? I did not incur a bounty at all. I tend to become a chaotic evil force when playing Skyrim, so it doesn't take an astrophysicist to know where this is going. Next up is the Thalmor Embassy, and I did not want to take any chances whatsoever. I've had this mission be glitchy before, and with Barbas being Barbas, and I don't want to lose track of Miku, I decided to just do the bucket way of the Thalmor Embassy. I run in, ignore the Thalmor soldiers who are pretty confused and agitated that a celebrity used their fame to break into their house for a live shooting, grab my reading material for when I need to go to the bathroom or play fetch, then return to Riverwood to continue the main story. But first, I had to make sure Sven knew that he was a Gamma male, and I'm the true Alpha or Sigma or other related Greek letter, and a challenger decided he wanted a 1v1 magic duel. He may claim he's a magician, but he failed to acknowledge my entourage. He moaned and groaned about me not playing fair. Dogs don't know the difference between right and wrong, only what is and isn't master, or under master's protection. The challenger lost a bet on the dogfight, and I got my next story mission from Delphine. With the companion's questline almost done, I figured I could finish helping the furries with their fur-related problem. I ran my way to the northwest of Falkreath, and along the way my pack of dogs had a territorial dispute with an undead pack of dogs. This is not a Halloween special, so those abominations have to go. Also, before the cavern, I ran across another vigilant. Because it is my life goal to ensure no vigilants are alive, I can say I had a blast taking her out. My contractual obligations come first. As for the Glamoural Witches, I'm not a fan of the rocket launchers they like to blast, but CQC is often the solution to all witch-related problems. They're very much not dog witches, considering that they were the cause of the curses. My pooches smooched the witches so much their heads were ripped off. While I could have popped one head, I figured there is no harm in being thorough. Before long I can keep my head in the game, and I return to the doghouse to find the Silverhand kill Cadillac. Okay, the Silverhand are getting the vigilant treatment. Along the way to the headquarters, I might have had a dragon pay a visit, so that was dandy. Wasn't too strenuous, 3 and a respawning half outnumbers 1 puny lizard. and along the way I met some flora that really barked up the wrong tree, and turning my butt into a chew toy because I was too lazy to use my disciplined voice. Once I got to the refuge, my pack finally joined up with me, and together we engaged in a simple and clean purification of the Silverhand. There is not really much to be said. I have one more mortal dog to my forces, and all the Silverhand are all spaced out. I did try to let a fellow mutt out of his cage to join our playtime. Sadly, this dog does not know how to play nice, so we had to euthanize it. Totally painless after the first few seconds. Hopefully. The Silverhand are such little threats, the boss encounter is but a footnote. I grabbed the teepee that was knocked over after roughhousing, and we returned to Whiterun to attend a funeral for the scheduled leader of a faction to die so we can take over. We discuss who to enter in the dog race. Yorling comes out with a couple neat tricks. One is a sword glued to his hand, and the other is anti-elven weaponry, and the finale of our quest can start. Since Easternmore's tomb is basically next to the Outer Scrolls, I did a slight detour to commune with the hermit crab to get Q's to break into the pet store so I can grab all the medicated dog food. I seriously can't believe some dog food is over $150. I doggy paddled my way to the tomb and put the axe on a pedestal to unlock the way, and begin the honor of the dead by killing the dead again, though one companion ghost does have cynophobia. The dungeon is pretty straightforward. With my 3 dogs and 2 dog lover backup, we made short work of the ghost until Farkas's arachnophobia took hold. It wasn't much of a dive. I let my pack maul the inhabitants, even let my flamehound in on the fun, and before long I'm talking to Cadillac once again, requesting to be free from his curse. I toss a head on the flame and let the big red dog come out as the final boss of the questline. Honestly, a big letdown for a final encounter. An easy boss fight. Honestly, it should have been a werewolf you had to fight. Oh well. I showed to Cadillac I'm the new Alpha, Sigma, Omega, too many Greek letters to keep track of, and with that, the companion's questline is done. I guess it is time to start wrapping up the main story. The hike up to Afton wasn't too strenuous. Well, that was until I was visited by the big brother of the guard saber cat. They are probably still upset I took out the sole family income, and now they cannot freeload off the family income, and is now stuck outside in negative 10-degree weather. The AI here is about as bright as a match at the bottom of the ocean. My hounds can come out on top, and I continued my way to Aftan. I was ready to crash hard on running through the dungeon. Instead, the game just regular crashed. I don't think Skyrim got the memo that it's supposed to be Oblivion who's supposed to be doing the crashing. Second multiverse, I took an alternative path to avoid the curse of Todd Howard, nearly got toasted by everyone's new waifu, and I made it inside my cold heart. I don't feel like letting my pooches chew on the electrical cords, so I just used my muscle memory to book it through the dungeon as a pacifist. My brain was on autopilot at this point, numb to having played this game more times in the last year than I have played new games for the first time. I ran past the funky mushrooms, solved a simple puzzle that I deserve all the head pats in the world for, and got me a new chew toy to give to my friends. Okay, enough getting distracted. I should probably go rescue the senile old man from his kennel, and I ran through Riften ignoring all the rats. I have a date with a certain kind old lady that must be done first and foremost. I tried to make her hostile by picking her pockets, but somehow I was able to steal everything without save scumming. Though I don't think Barbas was too happy with my immoral actions, breaking character. Don't worry, nobody is ever happy with me, let alone me. I stole in front of the hag until she became hostile. Mikio had enough of Grelot's and saved the kids from her evil ways, becoming their hero. Afterwards, it's a sewer crawl through a place that smells like a wet dog. The hardest part wasn't the random lunatic with bomb arrows, but rather trying to get over my puppies in these cramped corridors. The rest of the interior was a pretty quick sprint, and I'm talking to the second or third or maybe 14th most insane person in the game, and we began our escape. I have an entire pack at my disposal. The cleanup was quick and simple. Cesar got his just desserts, and I damage boosted my way through the rest of the sewers so I don't have to wait for Esbern to pick up the slack, and I perpetuated the eternal cat versus dog rivalry since time immemorial, and I am reuniting the worst faction to start the crawl to Cloud Ruler Temple. The journey to the temple was a dangerous one. The rival networks are jealous of my ratings and sent an assassin after me. It is kind of pathetic that every assassin seems to be incompetent. Maybe don't out-lunatic the lunatic by charging directly at your target. I didn't waste any time on the outside, and I ran inside to let the Briarheart become Diethheart. I solved the tough puzzles, proved to my loyal companions I would bleed for them, and grabbed me a set of Blades armor. Despite not having put any points in heavy armor, it still outpaces my light set. With total hell coming at me sooner than I would like to admit, and I'm not talking about the frozen Argonian experience, I used the void of my skull to good use and enchanted my new armor to get me through the ordeals. I returned to the Greybeards, hand in the flute, and endured an orgy of back in my days while my pets watched from afar. I got my clear sky shout to make it past the invisibly visible walls, pondered the day when I finally have the balls to conquer Skyrim with a fork, then brought party snacks to party snacks. I made a major error that will bite me in the next paragraph. I should have waited a few minutes for my entire pack to show up. I opened up the chew toy to discover an entire catalog of discontinued dog toys, along with getting a plot important shout, then beginning hell. So about the hell that will unfold in this long destined paragraph. Barbas is like that one friend who would say that he would be with you through thick and thin during the hardest of times, and when you arrive from the airport, they ditch you and go on to the amusement park and concert without you. Yeah, he never showed up. So it made Alduin so much more difficult than it should have been. Miku doesn't have much health, and after so many nap times, doesn't come back. Meaning, my only way to conquer Alduin is with my spectral hounds. So I guess I have to prove that I'm a real gamer and not resorting to cheating my way through. Thankfully, Alduin can't move very far, so I can use the terrain to my advantage. I would hide behind the rocks and summon my hounds to do damage and pop a potion when needed. I ran out of magic pretty often because I forget how to be a mage. The battle wasn't super difficult, but it was more so an exercise in tedium. I think I went through 36 hounds in the fight. Some days, Alduin can be defeated in like a minute, and other days, it takes 12 minutes to beat. Today was a 12-minute day. Eventually the lizard goes down, and it is finale time. I talked to Party Snacks, and he just decided to go for his people needs him. Like all good stories or typical episodes loop, there are hellos, and there must be farewells. Considering I cannot bring companions to Skuldolphin, this is where I must say goodbye to my good friends. I departed from the Thalmor embassy to hack my way to some random cave. The journey wasn't very eventful, and before long I'm inside Rimrock Barrow, and of course, when I got inside, Barbas was nowhere to be found. This is supposed to be his one job. After being ditched for the second time in 2 minutes, I cut my losses and let Sebastian live. There is no way for me to outdamage his healing. I returned to Clavicus' shrine, and he's probably irritated that I abandoned him for like 15 minutes of the video, or 5 hours playtime, or like 5 weeks lore time. He offers me the chance to keep the axe if I ol Yeller Barbas. I say no, he needs Barbas to be at full power, Master and little companion are reunited, Clavicus learns the error of his ways, and promises to be a better pet owner, and gives me his mask. I would wear it, but I have a much better mask on. If I decide when I wrap up my Daedric Quest playlist, I can do an every Daedric artifact run akin to Oblivion. And now it is time to say farewell to the best boy. Miko has been with us through thick and thin, and it is time for Miko to join with the new family. I travel to the orphanage and let the kids adopt Miko, for he is the one who slayed the horrible Grelod. With just my ghostly apparitions left, I talked to the annoying leaders of Skyrim to tell them to sit and stay, and they were barking at each other at the Peace Council. I didn't have any time for their BS, I just left the game running and cooked myself a lunch. How healthy was it? Considering the dollar store I got the processed food from, I will leave it to your imagination. Once the food was consumed and pointlessness was endured, I got the name of my taxi, called said taxi, and departed for absolute misery. Yeah, if my spectral hounds struggled with the basic Draugr, imagine how they fare against the Restless and Whites, not including all the dragons flying around. I say hell with it, and ran past everything. I thought I could use my empty brain pan on my head to skip the interior. I have not practiced the interior skip, plus the Wood Elves are a bit on the shorter side, so it was annoying to platform up to the side of the cliff, and that is not including the dragons breathing down your neck. After 10 minutes of consuming despair, and considering washing it down with a carton of pure chocolate, I cut my losses, and do the dungeon the intended way. I have a 1 over x cubed, where x goes to infinity damage output, translated to non-nerds, meaning I have jack for offense, so it makes the interior a pain in the arse. So much so, it was hell trying to get through. I was stuck at one point in a small room with 3 bone boys, and without a reliable way to cheer the toys, I was stuck until I summoned my hellhound to knock down some fire to clear out the room. As for the Overlord, I did not want to waste any more time. I told my flaming hound to shake with the boss and explode, granting me the paw. I don't feel like getting a second mask to scare my pups, and I book it to dog heaven. On my way to get my head cleaved in 4 by Big Braun, I found Kodlak hanging out in the fields. Glad to see him here and not in the hunting grounds. I'm so glad I picked up the explosive diarrhea hounds, or soon would be 10 times more annoying. I stood from afar summoning my flaming hounds, and I got really good results. I didn't have to do much, and I'm led past the ultimate chew toy bridge, and I get to bring along some new playmates to the dog park. Unlike my first foray into depravity, I have a consistent backup, and I even brought in the musclehead to speed up the process. I really wish I could think of more to say for the final fight, and not because of my bad brain fog. You get so much backup here, the fight is of non-issue. I sit back and let the pack maul each other to death. Alduin goes into his death knell, and my fiery dog can't finish a job. Oh well, we all saw this coming considering it's a semi-pacifist run, and conjurations are kinda meh. I booped Alduin on the snoot, telling him bad dragon, and the thought of not being a good boy was too much for the poor lizard, causing him to explode, and I could not beat Skyrim as Cesar Millan. That was not a very fun run. Well, it was when Barbas showed up and carried hard, but everything else, not so much. Conjure Familiar is such a weak spell. The Flame Atronach is a magnitude better than the Hounds, and the Hounds get cast aside easily. And for Miko, sure I did cheat a little and make him essential, but considering the poor pooch wouldn't make it long in dungeons anyways, given his very poor stats, it wasn't so much of a cheat anyways. Blood armor just so the kids don't have to cry at dead dogs. Marley and me destroyed me when I was young. Yeah, the run wasn't the best, but at least Skyrim wasn't obliterated in a million pieces like a few more recent runs. And it is fun to struggle every once in a while, and to think of the pool of challenging runs, this was bar none the easiest to do. Now to try to be sane until I decide to hurt myself even more in my confusion. Now if you need me, I have a bunch of good boys to pet. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give a like, subscribe for more masochism, and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you on the next one.